Hello, and thank you for joining me with Stamp with Leanne November class. These are the 3 cards that we did in my November class. The first one features the Harvest Hellos stamp set. Second one features Rooted in Nature. And the third one features Celebrate Sunflowers and Ornate Thanks. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with the Give Thanks card. Okay. And the pieces we're going to need for this are a Cajun Craze base, and that's 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Then we're going to have a piece of Whisper White for the inside, and that's just a 1/4 inch smaller, so it is 5 1/4 long and 4 wide. We're just going to set those aside. And then we have a piece of Bumblebee, and that is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. You could totally use 5 1/4 by 4, but I had a bunch that size, so. Then the pumpkin piece is 1 3/4 by 7, but you could use some small scraps as long as they're big enough to punch a pumpkin out of. And then a strip of Old Olive and Cherry Cobbler, and they're about 1/2 inch by 5 1/2. So they go all the way across, so they're going to extend a little bit over the edge of this. So first we're going to stamp the pumpkins, and we're going to use the Harvest Hello stamp set. We're going to stamp those in pumpkin pie. Okay. Bigger one. Okay. And we're going to stamp those in pumpkin pie. We're going to do 3. 1, 2, 3. That one we might need to do again. Then we're going to punch them out. Okay. And then this one is a little too close to the top, so we're going to stamp it again on the other side. A little lower this time. Okay. All right. And then, oh, I forgot to say we need a scrap of Suede. But you're just going to punch 3 little stems out of it, so you don't really even need that much. You can use a piece like this or a piece like this. 1, 2, 3. All right. Done. Okay, we're going to glue these to the back of the pumpkin, and this, it's apple builder punch, so when you're making an apple, you put the big end up, but when you're making a pumpkin, you put the big end down. It doesn't really matter which way the stem goes, left or right. Might want to make it a little slanty. Okay. Then we're going to stamp our sentiment, give thanks. Yeah. In black. And I always use my grid paper to make sure that when I stamp it straight, because it's not guaranteed I put the sticker on there straight. This one's pretty good though. Boop. Okay, then we're going to emboss the top part, and I actually use the debossed side. So we're gonna put it in upside down. So normally when you emboss in an embossing folder, the printing, the name Stampin' Up! Is on the top. So when you put it in, you know, this way, it's gonna be pushed out. But we want it to be pushed in, so we're gonna actually put it in upside down. And we're only gonna put it in part way, because we just want half of it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to put those other strips down. Okay, we're going to run this through. Just like that. And see, it's pushed down in instead of popped up. I mean, you could do it either way, but there's a choice. Okay, so now we're going to glue these down. And I like to use the liquid glue. And then when I'm gluing down something embossed, I do use quite a bit more, because there's the lumps. Okay, make sure we're opening the right way. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to lay down our strips. Just gonna glue them both. Okay. And then 2 of these are going to be glued down and 1 is going to be popped up. Okay. And I kind of put them a little bit tilted. Okay, and then this guy we're going to use dimensionals. And since I'm down to the edges, we'll put a whole little strip down there. I always use every bit of my dimensionals. Okay, and then this, we're going to sit it down here at the bottom. Then all we have left to do is put a little shine on it. We're going to use the wink of Stella. We're just going to go over all the lines. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to put this in the middle. And if you want to, let's put a couple of pumpkin leaves inside. I didn't do it on the other one. Maybe I'll do it on there now. We're going to use Old Olive, because that's the color we use here. That's cute. Let's put it in this one too. Okay. Let's glue this in. I mean, you could write. Make sure you have a nice dark pen on this Cajun color, but just make it easier. Write your little note. Okay, there we go. Card number 1. And here's the one we created before. Okay. Next, we're going to do let's do this one next. Let me get some water. So for this one, we're going to use the oh my gosh, Celebrate Sunflowers bundle. We're going to also use the Buffalo Check background stamp and Ornate Thanks stamp. Okay, and we're going to use the Stamparatus as well. We're going to use the Stamparatus to stamp the background. So let's do that first. Okay. Pieces that we're going to use for this card are you're going to have a thick Whisper White card base. Then we have a piece of cinnamon cider, and it is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Then we have Whisper White that's 3 3/4 by 5. So this one is just 1/8 bigger. There's just a tiny little border on here. Then we use crushed curry, and it's 3 1/2 by 3 1/2. The garden green is 2 by 2 3/4. That's to cut out the leaves. A piece of cinnamon cider, 3/4 by 3 1/4. Espresso, 1 by 2 3/4. A whisper white, 1/2 inch by 4. And, oh, a little scrap to cut this out. So like 1 by 1. Okay, so we're going to stamp on this with the background stamp. Okay. And we're not going to hold it down with the magnets because there's no room for it. We want to stamp the whole way. So what I do is I have my paper down here and I put it in a corner that I've marked. Okay. Usually I don't need to do it again, so it should come out fine. Okay, then got my stamp, and I'm going to set it down on top of my piece, and then pick it up with the, make sure we're back in the corner there. Right. Get our cinnamon cider ink, and we're going to ink this just all over. And it's nice when you use a good dark ink because you can see where you've got all your ink. So this looks pretty darn good. Make sure we're in the corner, straight against that line. I'm going to press it down. Okay. And then I'm going to peel it off. That looks pretty good to me. Okay. We're done with this, so we're just going to set that aside. Okay. Next, we're going to stamp our sunflower, and we're going to use Espresso ink for that. Got our sunflower. And what I've done on my stamp is I took a Sharpie and marked it right there, and then on my dies I did the same kind of thing. Here we go. There's my mark with a Sharpie, so I know that's the way it goes. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to just put that at the bottom here. Okay. Here we go. Beautiful. Okay, and then while we have our ink out, we'll cut that in a minute. We'll let it dry a smidge. We're going to do the So Grateful. Which is a photopolymer set. So that's why I'm even attempting to get it on this skinny little piece. Okay. All right, we're going to do one more try. That's much better. Okay. Get this cleaned off. Clean this one off too. Got it open. All right. Next, I'm going to punch it with the banner punch. Okay, we're going to use this one. And everybody else I see, they do it and they just slip it in there and punch it. But when I do that, it comes out crooked. So I'm going to put it in there and then I'm going to turn it over and see what the back looks like. There we go. Okie dokie. All right, so that's smudged a little. That's too wide. We're just gonna cut another little one because I have a million little 1/2-inch strips. All right. We're gonna let this dry. While we cut out the sunflower. Whoop. Okay. Here we go. We're going to cut these leaves. We're going to use this leaf. We're going to cut 2 of them. And then we're going to emboss them with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. So we're just going to pop them both in there and run those through. Okay. We're going to ink them to give them a little bit of definition. So we're just going to kind of scrape it along all the edges. And then a little bit on top, just a little. So you're not really grinding it in there, you're just kind of hitting the high points. Okay. Okay. There we go. And I always use my ink pad to ink the edges of things like this. And so for the edges, you know, you can just use the ink pad. Just sort of tap it on there if you have a foam pad. Okay. But what are you going to do for the pointy banner ends? Well, this is where you're going to use your marker. You're going to use the brush end of your marker, and you're just going to drag it along the edge. Could do it for the whole thing, but I find if I do it for a long ways, I slip up. So I just do it for little sections. Okay. All right, we're ready to start gluing. So we're going to glue this piece. Just use a very little bit. Little goes a long way. Okay, there we go. Then we're going to glue this little piece to the center. And then this is popped up, and so are the leaves. Okay. We won't do the cutting on here. We'll just get a new. These two leaves, I'm going to just glue them together. Actually, okay. All right, looks good. Actually, I want one more for the middle. I don't like my stuff to be saggy. Goodness. Okay. Then these are going to layer up with each other. Okay. Okay. We're going to put this on here. And I'm like lining up the end of this with the edge of that. Okay. And we're going to put it on our card base, and then we'll be all done. Always got to make sure which way it's opening. All right, there we go. Card number 2 completed. Nice fall card. Okay, then our final card is this one. And it uses the Rooted in Nature stamp set, which is a super cool set that is It's in the annual catalog. Actually, all the sets I used today were in the annual catalog. This is the Rooted in Nature set. It's a big set. It's got 2 cases. There's 16 stamps and they're pretty big. Okay. So for this card, we've got our Whisper White card base, thick Whisper White. Then we have a Whisper White piece that's 4 by 5 1/4, so just a 1/4 inch smaller, and then we're going to emboss that. Then we have a piece of Peacock, and it is 2 by 2 3/4, and then white. No, the Peacock is 3 by 4 1/4. The white is 2 3/4 by 4. Then we have a white that's 3 by 3. We're going to stamp this and cut it out. And then we have some Cajun and some Peacock leaves. So small pieces to cut those out. First we're going to stamp this big tree slice. Where did I do? Here it is. Okay. And we're going to stamp that in soft suede. We're going to stamp it off one time so that it's just not quite as dark. Okay. Stamp it on our grid and then on here. There, just a little lighter, and that's good to do when you are going to be stamping something on top of it. Just make it a little bit lighter, and we're going to stamp with Pretty Peacock the sentiment. Okay. And it's a pretty big one. Stamp to see. This one doesn't quite matter because we're going to cut it out and then you can put it, you know, wherever. You can make it straight when you place it. There we go. We're going to set that aside and cut it out in a moment. Okay. Now we're going to use Cajun. We're going to use crushed curry. We're going to use Peacock. And some crumb cake. And we're going to use the 2 different sizes of leaves. One. Two. Okay. And the crumb cake I also stamped off because I just wanted it to be lighter. Okay. Switch to blue. And this little area doesn't really matter because it's going to be mostly covered up. And I think we're going to do one more yellow. Right there. All right, of course. It's fine. Okay. Let's put these away. Now we're going to cut out this piece. We're going to use our snips. It's not super hard to cut out because it's basically just a circle, but also it's not like perfectly a circle, so you can you always turn your paper, not your scissors. That way, this hand can be in a good, you don't want to be going like this. That's too awkward. And with the snips, you can get little bitty point. Okay, very good. We're going to put dimensionals on this. Didn't I have a... Here we go. Okay, we're going to use some ribbon and some twine. Actually, it's linen thread. And it's the Bumblebee gingham. Bumblebee gingham ribbon. And twine. Okay. I'm just going to make a little bow. As if I'm tying my shoes. Okay. That looks good. And then the ribbon, we're just using like a tiny little bit. Actually, if you want your ends to match, you cut them both at the same time. And they'll both have the same angle. Okay, let's start gluing. Oh, we have to emboss our wood panel piece. Okay, this is the embossing folder. And this is, you know, you want to pay attention to the way you could put it in this way, and then the lines would go wide, and but we want to make the lines go up and down. So we're going to put it in this way. Okay, There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and glue that to our base. Okay. And I do use a little bit more when it's embossed because it's not perfectly flat. There we go. Glue this to this. Okay, now we're going to use some glue dots, and no, we're not the big ones. I'm going to use the mini ones. First, I'm going to put one to hold that together as one piece. We're going to let it hang over a little bit. Right. Put a glue dot. Whoop. Stuck to there now. Now we're going to stick this down. Okay. These are just going to kind of go up under. We're just going to put glue on one end. Oh, darn it. All right, we're going to put that one there. Okay, glue this on here. So if you're making this, put your little leaves underneath and then stick it down, because it's okay if your dimensional goes on top, but if it blocks your way like that, that's no good. And then I'm going to take another little glue dot and like fold it in half or in thirds. I'm going to kind of roll it up. Stick it right there. Whoop! There we go. And there you have it. The final card. And here's the one from before. And the other one. and the first one. So thank you for joining me with Stamp with Leanne for my November class. Have a good night. Bye.